In a mystical realm, Joe Mingrui introduced himself as the Fool, captivating Audrey and Alger with his enigmatic presence. They both felt his title perfectly suited the powerful aura he exuded. Audrey, with respectful grace, asked him to oversee their trade, and Joe agreed, setting the tone for their collaboration. Alger joined in her request, solidifying their roles in this unusual meeting. During their discussion, Audrey brought up tarot cards, wondering if they could divine the future. Alger explained that divination is rooted in an individual's spiritual connection, with tools like tarot cards helping interpret the resulting signs. He refuted Audrey's claim and shared that tarot cards are symbolic tools for understanding spiritual messages. Joe listened silently, masking the discomfort he felt as his headache grew. Audrey then revealed the story of Emperor Rosel's secret set of 22 paper cards, said to hold mysterious powers and inspire the major arcana. Seeking confirmation, she turned to Joe, who remained silent, but directed the question to Alger. Alger explained that these cards, tied to the blasphemy slate, embodied the profound mysteries of the 22 divine paths. Audrey listened with longing as the weight of the knowledge sank in. As Joe's discomfort peaked, he decided to end the gathering. Audrey and Alger accepted his decision respectfully, despite Audrey's lingering curiosity. Joe dismissed them with a promise of future meetings, and as the crimson light faded, the foggy realm dissolved, leaving Joe back in his apartment. Confused but intrigued, Joe tried to make sense of the surreal experience. Checking his pocket watch, he confirmed that time flowed normally, but his headache forced him to rest. Reflecting on the dangers of mysticism, he resolved to proceed cautiously and embrace his new identity as Klein. He saw potential in the gatherings for gaining insights, comparing their connectivity to a social networking platform, finding humor amidst his puzzling journey. A fierce storm raged across the seas as Alger Wilson stood on the deck of a three-mast sailboat, surrounded by towering waves. The crimson glow in his eyes faded, and the glass bottle in his palm shattered, disappearing into the rain. A crystal-like snowflake briefly formed on his hand before vanishing into his skin. After a brief pause, Alger entered the eerily silent ship, making his way to the captain's cabin, where he encountered a pale man refusing to surrender. With swift precision, Alger attacked the man, overpowering him using his beyonder powers. He forcefully threw him through the wall and out into the raging storm, the sea swallowing the defeated captain. Wiping his hands clean, Alger crafted a story of the captain's escape when a blonde associate arrived, frustrated by the turn of events. Despite the chaos, the mysterious ship began self-repairing, hinting at deeper secrets within its wooden planks. As Alger gazed into the stormy horizon, he felt awe and anticipation, imagining the Fool and realizing a new era was beginning. Meanwhile, in Backland, Audrey Hall reflected on her encounter in the foggy realm. The shattered bronze mirror and fading crimson mark on her hand confirmed her experience wasn't a dream. Thrilled by the revelation, Audrey celebrated with a dance but quickly composed herself as her maidservant, Annie, entered the room. Audrey prepared for a ceremony, debating her attire with Annie. Her preference for a familiar birthday dress was rejected, and instead, she chose a lotus design gown gifted recently. As the preparations concluded, her father, Count Hall, arrived and proudly escorted her to the event. When Audrey stepped out of the carriage at the Royal Navy base, she was awestruck by the sight of a massive ironclad warship in the military port. The ship's scale and majesty dwarfed the nearby fleet, heralding an impressive and powerful advancement in naval technology. The scene at the Royal Navy base was one of awe and amazement, as Audrey witnessed the unveiling of humanity's remarkable creations. First came the colossal ironclad warship, the Pritz, a marvel of engineering with its powerful cannons, thick armor, and immense size. The announcement of its capabilities by Prime Minister August Negan ignited the crowd's excitement as he declared the ship a game-changer destined to dominate the seas. As the crowd marveled at the warship, an even grander sight appeared. A sleek blue airship descended from the sky, carrying King George III and the royal family. The airship's elegant design and formidable weaponry symbolized the pinnacle of technological progress. Audrey, standing in the background due to her young age, watched silently, relieved to avoid interactions with the royals. When the ceremony began, Prime Minister Nagin delivered an inspiring speech, praising the ironclad warship as a historic achievement. He confidently dismissed any possibility of pirates replicating such a feat, citing the immense resources, expertise, and unity required to build it. Naming the vessel the Pritz, King George III expressed his delight, solidifying the warship's place in history. As the Pritz set sail amidst fanfare, its cannons demonstrated their destructive power, firing at a nearby uninhabited island and shaking the ground with their force. Agusit declared the end of the pirate era, heralding a new age dominated by ironclad warships and advanced weaponry. The crowd erupted in cheers, celebrating the dawn of a formidable era of naval supremacy. After resting for half an hour, Joe Mingrui, now embracing his new identity as Klein, noticed 4 black dots on the back of his hand forming a square. Although they quickly faded, Klein realized they remained hidden within him, ominous and unexplained. His experience of strange rituals, mysterious whispers, and a bizarre gray world filled him with fear of the unknown. Yet a contradictory curiosity urged him to explore and learn more about this mystical domain. As sunlight spilled onto his desk, Klein felt a faint sense of hope and warmth. Overcome by exhaustion from the sleepless night and his taxing encounter, he stumbled to his bed and fell into a deep sleep. Waking 3 hours later, hunger gnawed at him, driving all thoughts of mysticism from his mind. Determined to eat, Klein grabbed the loaves of rye bread placed in the 4 corners of his room. Frugality and a hometown tradition of consuming offerings made him decide to eat them, as his finances were meager. He set up a small furnace to boil water and began preparing a simple meal. Resisting the temptation to eat the mutton he had saved for a family dinner with Melissa, Klein turned his attention to some potatoes he had purchased earlier. He cleaned and boiled them, adding coarse yellow salt to enhance the flavor. The fragrant boiled potatoes reminded him of his youth, filling him with nostalgia and satisfaction as he devoured them. He even softened his bread by dipping it into the salty potato soup, savoring the simplicity of the meal. The demands of the ritual left Klein ravenous, and he ended up eating 2 whole loaves of bread. After recovering from his taxing ordeal, Klein felt rejuvenated as he basked in the sunshine, enjoying a moment of peace. He began planning his next steps, resolving to confront the mysteries around him, including his connection to mysticism and the enigmatic gathering where he might uncover the formula for the spectator potion. Klein focused on unraveling the mystery of the original Klein suicide, which seemed linked to the notebook from the 4th epic, an era shrouded in mystery and tied to the Solomon Empire, Tudor dynasty, and Trunsoist Empire. The notes detailed fragments of deciphered contents, including mentions of the Antigonus family, the Dark Emperor, and the nation of the Evernight atop the Hornacis mountain range. The entries ended abruptly on June 27 with a chilling line: "Everyone will die, including me." Realizing the notebook might hold answers, Klein decided to visit Welch despite the danger the scenario seemed to promise. His apprehension, shaped by tropes of novels and films, only reinforced the urgency to act rather than escape. As Klein grappled with his decision, sudden knocks echoed through the hallway. No, Klein, pondering the mysterious suicide of the original body owner and the potential dangers ahead, was startled by a sudden knock at the door. He instinctively armed himself with a revolver, but carefully concealed it in the stove before answering. At the door stood 4 policemen, led by Bitch Mountbatten, a tough yet effective sergeant, and 3 senior inspectors. Klein, recognizing their authority, invited them in. The lead inspector questioned Klein about Welch McGovern, his university classmate. Klein explained their connection, mentioning recent discussions over ancient notes. The inspectors revealed shocking news. Welch and Naya, another acquaintance, had both died in unsettling circumstances. Welch had repeatedly hit his head against the wall, while Naya drowned herself in a basin, both deaths suggesting suicide. Despite the bizarre nature of the incident, autopsy results ruled out drugs or external influence, noting a lack of struggle. Visibly shaken, Klein recounted meeting Welch and Naya on June 26 before returning home to prepare for an upcoming interview at Tingen University. Klein froze as a young police inspector approached his desk and began flipping through the notes resembling a diary. Realizing he had forgotten to hide it, Klein cried out, but the inspector continued undeterred. The gray-eyed inspector justified the search as standard procedure, while the others, including Bitch Mountbatten, passively observed. Klein briefly considered questioning their lack of search warrants, but remembered that the Lowen Kingdom's legal system likely didn't involve such formalities, given the police force's relatively recent establishment. The young inspector found an ominous sentence at the end of the notes. "Everyone will die, including me," and questioned its meaning. Klein, thinking quickly, feigned confusion and claimed memory loss, citing an inexplicable sense of forgetfulness since the morning. Despite Mountbatten's angry disbelief, the gray-eyed inspector seemed to accept Klein's explanation and assured him that a psychological expert would visit in 2 days to help recover any lost memories. Klein grew uneasy at the thought of his Earth-related memories being exposed. The search continued without discovering Klein's hidden revolver. The gray-eyed inspector then warned Klein not to leave Tingen without notifying Mountbatten or risk becoming a fugitive. Klein agreed, perplexed by the lack of further questioning or coercive measures. As the officers left, the green-eyed inspector commented that Klein was lucky to be alive, as such incidents typically ended with all involved parties deceased. This chilling remark unsettled Klein, reinforcing his awareness of the strange and dangerous circumstances surrounding him. After the unsettling comment from the inspector about Klein's survival being unusual, Klein rushed to the door, intending to ask the police for protection. However, he hesitated, realizing their lack of safeguards for him seemed careless or deliberate. Suspecting he might still be under their watch, Klein calmed himself, opened the door slightly, and shouted after them in a trembling voice, feigning fear. His attempts received no response, and the fading sound of footsteps confirmed their departure. Amused by their unconvincing act, Klein returned to his room, masking his apprehension through restless behavior. As evening approached, Klein distracted himself by focusing on dinner preparations. He retrieved the concealed revolver, tucked it carefully under the bed, and reassured himself that extraordinary powers might expose him if the police returned. Finding no interruption, he decided to prepare stewed mutton with tender peas, recalling Melissa's method of cooking. He began chopping and marinating the meat, then stir-fried vegetables and added water to stew the dish. Though lacking luxuries like wine, he improvised with basic condiments. As the aroma intensified, Klein felt a mix of satisfaction and hunger. He waited for his sister's return while keeping track of time, his nerves finally settling as footsteps approached and the door opened. Before Melissa entered, she paused outside, intrigued by the enticing aroma. Walking in with her bag in hand, she glanced at the stove in disbelief and asked Klein if he had cooked the dish. After hesitating, she inhaled the fragrance, softened by its allure, and questioned him again. Klein assured her he wouldn't waste the mutton, mentioning that Welch had taught him how to cook it. Melissa expressed doubt, wondering if it was Klein's first attempt. He dismissed her concerns confidently, urging her to set aside her belongings, wash up, and prepare to taste the meal. Klein's calm demeanor left her stunned for a moment before she snapped out of it and hurried to follow his instructions. By the time she returned, Klein had prepared a plate of stewed mutton with tender peas, potatoes, carrots, onions, and rye bread warmed in the gravy. Melissa sampled the dish with initial hesitation, first tasting the potato and then the mutton. Overwhelmed by the rich flavors and tender meat, she couldn't stop eating, eventually realizing she had consumed more than intended. Embarrassed, she apologized, but Klein reassured her, saying it was the cook's privilege to taste the food first. They ate together, sharing a satisfying meal that Melissa praised wholeheartedly. She was amazed by Klein's skill, which seemed far beyond a first attempt. As they finished, Klein humorously promised that one day he would treat Melissa and Benson to an even better meal at a restaurant. Melissa tried to bring up Klein's upcoming interview but was interrupted by a burp, blushing with embarrassment. Klein laughed quietly and tasked her with cleaning up. Afterward, Melissa inspected the ingredients used and expressed her surprise. Klein explained that delicacies came with a price. She offered to cook in the future, urging Klein to focus on preparing for his interview. Klein muttered inwardly, annoyed at Melissa's comment. He felt the weight of forgotten details, particularly with his interview in 2 days, making it hard to focus amid the bizarre paranormal events he was entangled in. Giving Melissa a brief response, Klein pretended to study while she worked on assignments beside him. The calmness of the evening extended until they bid each other goodnight near midnight. Early dawn, Klein was startled awake by a knock at his door. The gray-eyed inspector, Dunn Smith, informed him that evidence from a carriage driver placed Klein at Welch's house on the day of his and Naya's deaths. Klein was alarmed but not guilty, as the claim was true, though he had no memory of it due to the strange circumstances surrounding his survival. When Dunn Smith mentioned a missing revolver linked to Welch, Klein understood the weapon's origin and directed the inspector to where he had hidden it. Klein also explained how he had woken up one night with the revolver beside him, as if he had tried to end his own life but failed. Careful with his words, Klein revealed all but his transmigration and mysterious gathering, emphasizing his lost memories and puzzling survival. Dunn acknowledged Klein's account as consistent with past cases, but maintained Klein as the prime suspect. He informed Klein that an expert had arrived early to verify his claims. Klein was asked to cooperate by visiting the station for a 2 to 3 day investigation. Before leaving, Klein requested to write a note for Benson and Melissa to prevent them from worrying about his sudden absence. Dunn nodded in agreement, letting Klein leave a note for Melissa and Benson. As Klein searched for paper, he anxiously considered his predicament. Meeting the expert risked exposing his secret, something Klein dreaded in a world governed by powerful churches and mysterious forces. Without skills or weapons to defend himself, he acknowledged his vulnerability to the policeman stationed nearby. Reluctantly, Klein left the note, grabbed his keys, and followed Dunn outside. Under tight police surveillance, Klein walked down the creaking wooden stairs and found a carriage waiting, bearing the police emblem. As Dunn urged him forward, chaos erupted nearby when an oyster seller accused a customer of theft, triggering confusion among the horses. Seizing the moment, Klein dashed into the crowd, dodging and pushing his way to escape. His plan was to reach the pier, take a boat down the Tussock River, or head eastward by train to Enmont Harbor, using either route to vanish into the capital, Buckland. Reaching Iron Cross Street, Klein hired a carriage and requested to be taken to the pier outside the city. Intent on misleading the police, he planned to jump off once the carriage was a suitable distance away. However, the driver unexpectedly steered onto a different road. Confused, Klein asked where they were headed, only to hear a chilling reply, Welch's place. The driver revealed himself as Dunn Smith, whose cold gray eyes unsettled Klein. As the scene blurred, Klein suddenly awoke, drenched in sweat. It had all been a nightmare. Still shaken by the vivid and logical dream, Klein checked his pocket watch. It was 2 a.m. He quietly got out of bed, intending to freshen up in the washroom. Walking through the dim corridor, he stopped abruptly upon noticing a silhouette by the window. The figure, wearing a black windbreaker, blended into the crimson moonlight. Slowly, it turned to face Klein, revealing cold, gray eyes. Dunn Smith. Klein stepped back in shock, unsure if he was awake or still dreaming. The silhouette introduced himself as Nighthawk Dunn Smith, a member of the Church of the Evernight Goddess Beyonder team. Klein realized Dunn had entered his dream, guiding it rather than controlling it. Dunn explained that dreams amplify suppressed emotions and dark thoughts, yet remain rooted in reality, making them clearer to veterans like him. Klein was unnerved, fearing Dunn might uncover his Earth-related memories, but he suspected Dunn only saw what Klein allowed him to see. When Klein asked if Dunn believed his memory loss, Dunn confirmed it, but insisted Klein meet the expert for further verification. Dunn revealed Klein's connection to the missing Antigonus family notebook, which was absent from the suicide scene. Klein reluctantly agreed, knowing escape was futile against Dunn's heightened vigilance and superior abilities. As they prepared to leave, Klein requested to use the bathroom, calming himself before following Dunn to the carriage. Dunn questioned Klein's dream escape, and Klein admitted he feared being proven guilty and sought a fresh start elsewhere. Dunn empathized but maintained Klein's involvement needed thorough investigation. Inside the carriage, Klein probed Dunn about the expert's findings and whether the matter would end if Klein was cleared. Dunn explained that while resolution was possible, the unpredictable nature of their work often led to chilling resurgences. He recounted a case involving an evil cult, where a whistleblower escaped and rebuilt his life, only to later die mysteriously. The story left Klein uneasy as the crimson moonlight illuminated Dunn's somber expression. The sinister smile of Dunn Smith filled Klein with dread as he silently gasped at the thought of his own tragic fate, possibly mirroring the whistleblower's. Klein pondered whether his survival might only be temporary and wondered if becoming a beyonder could be the solution. The silence in the carriage became suffocating as countless thoughts raced through his mind. When Klein decided to ask Dunn for advice, the carriage abruptly stopped. Dunn announced that they had arrived at Welch's apartment and adjusted his black coat. Before stepping out, he mentioned that the expert they were meeting was disguised as AWWA County's most renowned spirit medium. Intrigued, Klein asked about her true identity. Dunn turned back, his gray eyes profound, and revealed her actual identity, a true spirit medium. A true medium. Klein repeated this description inwardly and did not speak again. Klein silently followed Dunn into Welch's bungalow, passing through a garden lined with fragrant flowers and a freshly cut lawn. The tranquil scenery sharply contrasted with Klein's growing unease, as he felt invisible eyes observing him from every corner. Though he saw no one, the feeling of being surrounded unsettled him. When Klein voiced his concern, Dunn dismissed it, instructing him to ignore the sensation. Klein struggled to suppress the chilling feeling until they reached the bungalow's entrance. Inside, Dunn introduced Klein to Daly, a spirit medium draped in a hooded black robe. The dimly lit room was bathed in the eerie cobalt blue glow of a candle on the table. Daly informed them that all original spirits, including Welch's and Naya's, had vanished, leaving behind no knowledge of the incident. Klein greeted her nervously as she invited him to sit. Daly prepared her tools, using fragrant floral essences to calm Klein and set the atmosphere for the mediumship. As Daly released aromatic substances into the air, Klein felt himself relax, his tension dissipating into a serene haze. The scents, combined with Daly's explanations, transported him into a surreal, dreamlike state. Colors intensified, surroundings blurred, and murmurs seemed to echo from unseen sources. Klein's vision focused on Daly's emerald eyes as she explained the vast, hidden mental world within every person. She described the mind as an ocean, where even forgotten memories leave traces that can be uncovered beneath the surface. Klein, though captivated by her words, maintained enough clarity to act dazed, concealing his deeper secrets. Klein calmly played along during the mediumship session, giving carefully rehearsed responses to Daly's guidance and portraying his agony convincingly. Despite Daly's efforts, Klein's clear mind and rationality ensured no traces of his secrets were revealed. As the session ended, Daly declared Klein free of significant traces, leaving him relieved. Dunn questioned Daly's use of theories from the psychology alchemists, but Daly defended them as accurate based on her experience. Both confirmed the deaths of Welch and Naya as suicides, though the force that drove them remained untraceable. Dunn allowed Klein to leave, but warned him to keep the incident secret from his loved ones. Klein asked how he could be sure the trouble was truly over, and Dunn reassured him with vague statistics. 80% of survivors from similar cases experienced no after effects. For the remaining unlucky fifth, Dunn offered Klein two options: join the Nighthawks as a civilian staff member or become a beyonder. Dunn revealed the challenges of being a beyonder, emphasizing the loss of freedom and the dangers of losing control. He explained that a significant portion of cases handled by beyonder organizations involved beyonders who went rogue, many of them their own teammates. A flood of conflicting emotions surged within Klein after hearing Dunn's words. Bewildered by the dangers surrounding beyonders, he instinctively questioned why such serious hidden risks existed, even within the church's judiciary and among the beyonders themselves. Dunn, maintaining his calm demeanor, dismissed Klein's need to understand, stating it was only comprehensible to those within their ranks. When Klein expressed skepticism about making an informed decision without understanding the risks, Dunn clarified that civilian staff members were also part of the group and privy to such knowledge. Klein rephrased Dunn's point, confirming that joining as a civilian staffer would allow him to grasp the relevant secrets and then decide whether to pursue becoming a Beyonder. Dunn affirmed this but emphasized the strict criteria for becoming a Beyonder, enforced by all the churches. Klein pushed further, questioning the ease of joining even as civilian staff. Dunn reassured him, citing Klein's survival of the paranormal ordeal as proof of exceptional qualities, particularly luck, which made him a rare asset. Additionally, as a history graduate from Coy University, Klein's expertise was valuable for deciphering ancient documents and artifacts often linked to cults and strange phenomena. Dunn explained that hiring external experts in the past risked exposing secrets and endangering uninvolved individuals, making an internal specialist like Klein desirable. When Klein suggested grooming such specialists internally, Dunn highlighted the final reason for inviting Klein. He had already been exposed to similar phenomena, thus avoiding violations of confidentiality clauses. Regarding secrecy, Dunn explained that spreading awareness of these dangers often led to imitation rather than prevention, exacerbating chaos and incidents. This reinforced the need for strict confidentiality to contain the spread of information. Dunn referenced Emperor Rozel's quote, "The only lesson humans can learn from history is that humans do not gain any lessons from history," adding his agreement. Klein silently lamented how the enigmatic emperor had preemptively claimed such insightful statements, leaving little room for others to shine. Dunn elaborated further, revealing the judiciary's rationale for secrecy, that faith and fear amplified unchecked could lead to catastrophic destruction. This stark principle left Klein contemplative, as the interplay of shadows and lamplight outside the carriage evoked an eerie sense of lurking eyes and open mouths, amplifying his unease. As carriage rode steadily, with Dunn breaking the silence to formally invite Klein to join as a civilian staff member. Overwhelmed by the implications, Klein asked for time to consider. Dunn granted him until Sunday and stressed the importance of keeping Welch's incident a secret, warning of severe consequences if this confidentiality was violated. The conversation shifted as Klein inquired about civilian staff salary and benefits. Dunn explained that new civilian staff members received a total of £3 weekly, comparable to a university lecturer, with compensation increasing based on experience and contributions. Contracts were set at 5 years, followed by a lifetime confidentiality agreement and restrictions on relocation without permission. Working shifts without weekends and coordinating vacations with colleagues were part of the arrangement. As the carriage approached Klein's apartment, Dunn shared a cryptic process for contacting him if Klein decided to join, visiting the Hound Pub and speaking to its boss, Wright, under the guise of hiring a mercenary squad. Klein exited the carriage, saluting Dunn, and watched as it disappeared into the quiet street. Left alone in the tranquil early morning, Klein reflected on the eerie contrast between the bustling district during the day and the lifeless calm at night. He realized his shirt was damp with sweat. Klein exhaled deeply, relieved the ordeal with the medium had passed. As he returned to his apartment in the cool, tranquil night, he felt an unusual sense of having extra time, spurring him to hasten his pace. Upon entering his home, he was surprised to find Melissa waiting at his desk, questioning his absence. Thinking quickly, Klein explained he had gone for an early run to combat sleeplessness, pointing to his sweat as evidence. Melissa, though skeptical, expressed her confidence in Klein's upcoming university interview, reassuring him that other opportunities would follow if needed. Changing the mood, Melissa introduced him to her recent creation, a rhythmic, tortoise-like contraption made from discarded materials. She shared how its simple movements brought her relaxation, inviting Klein to try it. Impressed by her ingenuity, Klein praised her work, even as Melissa corrected his assumption, calling it a puppet with a mysterious tone. Shifting topics, Klein asked why Melissa had been up in the middle of the night. Before she could respond, her stomach interrupted with a loud gurgle, prompting her to flee in embarrassment, taking her contraption with her. Klein chuckled, attributing it to the indulgent dinner they'd enjoyed, and settled at his desk. As the crimson moon reappeared from behind the clouds, Klein pondered Dunn-Smith's offer. While becoming a Nighthawk civilian staffer could provide stability and cover for his secrets. It came with strict oversight and limited freedom, binding him to the church's authority. Pursuing the path of a beyonder held allure, but also the lurking danger of losing control. Klein carefully analyzed the advantages and necessities of joining the Nighthawks, recognizing his vulnerability to future bizarre events and the obstacles in relying solely on the gathering. He concluded that joining the Nighthawks would provide access to valuable resources, social circles, and relevant knowledge to protect himself and pursue his goals. He weighed the risks and freedoms involved, considering the balance between opportunities and restrictions. As dawn approached, Klein resolved to join the Nighthawks as a civilian staff member. Melissa, surprised to see him awake, suggested listing pros and cons to aid decision-making, a method Klein confirmed he had already used. After breakfast and a restful nap, Klein dressed formally, preparing to visit Basic Street. He opted for a public horse carriage rather than walking, navigating his route through Champagne Street. Upon reaching Basic Street, Klein found the pub marked with a brownish-yellow hound logo and pushed open its heavy door. Inside, the dimly lit space buzzed with activity, filled with temporary workers, idle patrons, and the clamor of conversations. Klein entered the lively pub and noticed two dogs, one black, sleek, and fierce, and the other black and white, resembling an earth husky. A man wearing a brown beret excitedly pointed to the black dog, Doug, boasting about its record of 8 consecutive wins. Confused, Klein asked if this was dogfighting, but the man denied it, pointing out the activity was banned by law the previous year. Instead, the betting revolved around the better hunter among the dogs. Klein watched as 2 men dumped hundreds of live rats into a deep iron cage. The dogs were unleashed, with the black dog immediately hunting and killing a rat, while the black and white dog hesitated before playfully engaging. The crowd cheered and placed bets on the number of rats each dog could catch. Klein, amused yet unsettled, withdrew to the bar. As Klein asked for Mr. Wright, the bartender called out to the intoxicated man behind the bar. Wright dismissed Klein's request for a mercenary squad as outdated, but, upon hearing Dunn's name, directed Klein to number 36 Zoutland Street, where the squad had taken a contemporary form. Klein thanked Wright and left, noting the murmurs of the crowd as Doug, the champion black dog, faced an unexpected defeat. Klein made his way to Zoutland Street, counting house numbers until he arrived at his destination. Climbing the stairs, he discovered the mercenary squad now operated under a new name, Blackthorn Security Company. Klein arrived at the Blackthorn Security Company, amused yet unsurprised by its existence. Knocking twice without a response, he pushed the door open and found a brown-haired girl sleeping at her desk. After waking her, the girl, reading a newspaper to mask her embarrassment, realized Klein was there under Dunn Smith's invitation. She quickly fetched Dunn, referring to him as the captain, but returned saying he was stationed at the Chanis Gate and unable to leave. She led Klein through the building instead. Passing through a corridor with locked and open offices, Klein spotted familiar faces, including Leonard, the poetic officer from his earlier investigation. Roseanne, the brown-haired girl, guided him down a stone staircase, illuminated by gas lamps. Along the way, she shared anecdotes, including Leonard's comical mishap as a fledgling sleepless, and her own joining the Nighthawks 5 years ago after her father's death. Roseanne introduced herself warmly, clarifying that as a civilian staffer, Klein wouldn't be a teammate but rather a colleague. Their descent revealed an underground space, damp and cool against the summer heat. Roseanne's lighthearted demeanor helped ease Klein's nervousness as they approached their destination. Klein humorously commented on the fear of fathers being natural. Klein descended into the depths of the Nighthawk headquarters, guided by Roseanne, until they reached the Chanis Gate, a black iron gate marked with sacred emblems of the Evernight goddess. Roseanne directed him to the adjacent room, where Dunn Smith welcomed him warmly, inviting him to finalize his decision. Klein confirmed his commitment to join as a civilian staff member. Dunn handed Klein the contract, highlighting the confidentiality clause in the 5-year term. After careful review, Klein signed both copies, leaving his thumbprint as confirmation. Dunn stamped the documents and formally welcomed Klein to the squad, emphasizing the importance of secrecy. As Klein jested about the guise of Blackthorn Security Company, Dunn explained its alternative identities and how it served as part of the Special Operations Department within AWWA County's police force, primarily addressing supernatural incidents tied to followers of the Evernight goddess. Dunn outlined the organizational structure, mentioning collaboration with other squads, such as the mandated Punisher under the Church of the Lord of Storms and the Machinery Hive Mind under the Church of the God of Steam and Machinery. Klein inquired about the squad size, learning there were 6 formal Beyonders and 6 civilian staff members in Tingen City. Curious about the dangers of being a Beyonder, Klein posed the critical question about losing control, eager to understand the risk involved. Dunn reflected deeply on Klein's question, introducing the creation myth to provide context. He spoke of the creator who sacrificed himself to form the universe, with different body parts giving rise to prominent races, gods, and creatures. Klein contributed his fragmented understanding of the myth, likening its detailed nature to folklore. However, he puzzled over the Evernight goddess's lesser prominence in prehistorical records compared to the Lord of Storms, eternal blazing sun, and God of knowledge and wisdom. Dunn guided Klein to revisit the goddess's full title, focusing on her epithet as the Lady of Crimson. Klein immediately connected this to the red moon, which stemmed from the creator's single eye. Together, they acknowledged this heritage was equally significant as the spirit-derived origins of other deities. Dunn subtly hinted at similar explanations for other gods, while highlighting the struggles of the God of Steam and Machinery, whose recent emergence made his church comparatively weaker until the invention of the steam engine. As Dunn stroked his pipe thoughtfully, Dunn began explaining how humans, though lacking innate magical abilities, discovered ways to gain extraordinary powers through potions made from mystical materials. He outlined the origins of Beyonders and the dangers they face. These dangers, he revealed, include 5 types of losing control, each more disturbing than the last. 1. Extreme reactions to potions. Consuming potent or incompatible potions can lead to mental death, physical disintegration into monstrous forms, or complete madness. 2. Fixed pathways. Some individuals, born with heightened spiritual perception, have traits linked to specific Beyonder paths. Straying from these paths by consuming other potions often results in mental instability, or worse, death. 3. Incompatible potions. Even those who follow a specific sequence must avoid consuming potions from other paths. Doing so risks warped powers and a state of near madness, with irreversible outcomes like turning into monsters or evil spirits. 4. Accumulated madness. The transformation from potions leaves subtle remnants of spiritual power. Rushing into the next sequence potion without mastering the prior one leads to accumulating madness, greatly increasing the chance of losing control. 5. Enhanced perception risks. Higher sequence Beyonders develop heightened spiritual sensitivity, making them vulnerable to unseen forces, temptations, and illusions. Overexposure or greed exacerbates their instability, pushing them toward madness. Dunn concluded with a somber reflection from Archbishop Chenis, who described the Nighthawks as both protectors and individuals, perpetually battling madness and danger. Dunn's grim insights about Beyonders lingered with Klein, though he managed to steady himself and accept the risk inherent in pursuing power. Dunn clarified that Beyonders, especially those of lower sequences, were not as invincible as they might seem, their strengths countered by firearms and physical danger. He warned Klein to approach the decision cautiously, emphasizing that advancement along sequence chains required careful management to avoid catastrophic consequences. Dunn then introduced Klein's new civilian duties with the Nighthawks. Klein would begin by walking the streets between Welch's home and his own, seeking familiar spots that might trigger a sense of déjà vu and lead to the discovery of the missing Antigonus family diary. This task held great importance, as finding the diary could be Klein's key to gaining contributions significant enough to start his journey as a Beyonder. For his secondary responsibility, Klein would delve into literature and canon books housed in the Nighthawk's armory, preparing him for shifts, managing inventory and records alongside Roseanne and others. Dunn also provided an overview of the Chanis Gate, a heavily fortified area storing dangerous artifacts, potion formulas, magical materials, and even classified records. He advised Klein to avoid it at all costs, describing the latent dangers and enchantments lurking within. As Dunn explained the nature of sealed artifacts, extraordinary items with living traits capable of causing catastrophic outcomes, Klein absorbed the magnitude of the world he was stepping into. Each revelation was both unnerving and fascinating, drawing Klein deeper into the mysteries of the Beyonder realm. Dunn elaborated on the classification of sealed artifacts within the Nighthawk hierarchy, categorizing them by levels of danger and access. Asterisk, asterisk, grade 0, extremely dangerous. Asterisk, asterisk, the highest level of confidentiality. These artifacts are not to be described, disseminated, or accessed, only stored in the Holy Cathedral's basement. Asterisk, asterisk, grade 1, highly dangerous asterisk, asterisk, limited use, accessible only to diocesan bishops or Nighthawk deacons and above. Few are stored in diocese headquarters like Backland. The rest are sent to the Holy Cathedral. Asterisk, asterisk, grade 2, dangerous asterisk, asterisk, usable with caution, requiring clearance from bishops or Nighthawk captains. City central cathedrals may hold 3 to 5 such artifacts, while others are stored at higher facilities. Asterisk, asterisk, grade 3, considerably dangerous asterisk, asterisk, carefully managed and used for operations needing at least 3 personnel. Clearance is granted to formal Nighthawk members. Dunn mentioned the identification format, for example, 2 to 125 inches, for these artifacts and shared an alarming case involving a former archbishop, Insa Zangwill. Corrupted by a devil after failing a promotion, Zangwill escaped with grade 0 sealed artifact 0. 08, a quill that writes without ink. Dunn emphasized the severe consequences of encountering Zangwill, advising immediate reporting rather than direct engagement. Klein examined Zangwill's photo and noted the stark contrast between the detailed description of the fugitive and the cryptic references to the artifact. Dunn concluded by directing Klein to the armory to meet Old Neil, a former Nighthawk member who now managed records and documents. Despite his health preventing active duty, Old Neil remained dedicated to preserving knowledge. Klein, preoccupied with thoughts of sealed artifact 0, 08, and its mysterious classification, turned to leave but was stopped by Dunn, who reminded him to collect an advance payment of £12 from Mrs. Oriana. Dunn emphasized its necessity, encouraging Klein to move to better living arrangements and purchase a proper suit and cane to elevate his appearance. Though embarrassed, Klein agreed. Dunn summoned Roseanne to guide Klein to Mrs. Oriana and assured him that Roseanne's presence was sufficient authorization for the payment. Just as Klein prepared to leave, Dunn instructed him to also retrieve 10 demon hunting bullets for Welch's revolver from Old Neil. However, upon realizing Klein was untrained in shooting, Dunn revised his instructions to include 30 standard bullets daily and a badge for access to the underground shooting range on Zoutland Street. Dunn emphasized the importance of practice, ensuring Klein could defend himself against potential dangers. After multiple interruptions, Klein finally left the room with Roseanne, who humorously critiqued Dunn's forgetfulness while introducing him to Mrs. Oriana. Klein found her to be elegant and approachable. Following formalities, he completed the process of receiving his advance payment. Klein collected his advance payment from Mrs. Oriana, and during their conversation, learned of her harrowing past. 16 years earlier, she had narrowly escaped becoming the 6th victim of a serial killer known as the Bloody Butcher. This ordeal led her to join the Nighthawks, where she found solace and purpose. Afterward, Klein proceeded to meet Old Neil in a modest, dimly lit room. The elder exuded an air of experience, dressed in a classic black robe and poring over yellowed documents. Welcoming Klein warmly, Neil revealed the nature of his work, particularly his fascination with Emperor Rosel's enigmatic diaries. These entries were written in undecipherable symbols, thought to have been invented by the emperor himself. Neil, brimming with pride, shared his progress in decoding some of the symbols, identifying them as numbers. With a twinkle in his eye, he tasked Klein with assisting him in deciphering the diaries moving forward. However, when Klein glanced at the pages, he was struck with shock. They contained symbols he recognized unmistakably as simplified Chinese, the written language of his world.